On my 22nd birthday, he discovered my diary, urgently sending me abroad, spending millions to arrange a wedding to marry my first love. Later, I returned to my country holding a small child, and he looked astonished. "You gave birth to him?" I smiled and nodded, "Yeah. I just finished my confinement period." Sitting on the plane, I felt a bit dazed. I had never imagined that after 5 years abroad, I would have the chance to come back. After all, Aaron said that in this lifetime, I should never appear in front of him. But it was he who personally bought me a ticket to return home, so that I could attend his wedding anniversary ceremony with Jillian. After transferring through 2 flights, I finally landed. When we were on the plane, my daughter Farah slept soundly, but once we got off the plane, she started to cry. "Mom, my foot hurts." Hearing Farah's soft sobs, I quickly picked her up and walked towards the exit. When I arrived at the exit, I opened my phone, ready to call a taxi. Just then, my phone rang. Looking at the familiar string of numbers on the screen, I fell silent, unsure whether to answer or not. In the end, I didn't answer the phone. But soon, the second call rang. I sighed and answered it anyway. Aaron's voice soon rang out. After years without communication, his voice hadn't changed at all. "Are you out of the airport? I had my assistant pick you up." Aaron said this in a businesslike manner, as if he were not familiar with me. I gave a bitter smile. "I can take a taxi myself." There was a moment of silence over there. Aaron probably didn't expect me to say that. After all, at that time, he took very good care of me. For several years by his side, my food, clothing, housing, and transportation were all taken care of. I never had to hail a taxi myself. After a moment of silence, Aaron casually spoke up, "Let the assistant handle it. I bought a gift for Jillian on your behalf and put it in the trunk. You can just take the gift when you come for dinner." Aaron is still so thoughtful, even considering the gift situation just right. Indeed, he spent millions to set up the venue and bought a limited edition diamond to create a unique wedding ring for Jillian, which shows how much he loves her. "Got it." I rubbed my brow and replied to him in a low voice. Aaron no longer spoke, but he did not hang up the phone either. After a while, Aaron finally spoke. "Nancy, after being abroad for 5 years, I hope you have truly reflected on yourself. If you do anything to Jillian, I won't let you off the hook." Hearing this, I was taken aback for a moment. The noise around me seemed to quiet down. Aaron said he wouldn't let me go. I hadn't said a word when Aaron hung up the phone. "Actually, Aaron, you can rest assured, I won't do anything to them. I just want to take good care of Farah and find another job." When I left the airport, I lowered my head. At the age of 22, the proud me could hardly imagine that my life would fall to such a low point. I was sent abroad by Aaron on my 22nd birthday. That day, Aaron discovered my diary. When I was young, my parents had an accident while on a cruise and never came back. My relatives all looked down on me as a burden, and no one was willing to take me in. Aaron, seeing my plight as a neighbor, decided to support me as I grew up. My relationship with him had always been harmonious. Until adulthood, I realized that I didn't just see Aaron as a benefactor. I like him. But I also know very well that there is no future for Aaron and me. So, I poured all my thoughts and feelings into my diary. If Aaron hadn't seen my diary, I could probably still pretend that my feelings for him were just dependency. Aaron saw it. He tore my diary apart, and the once gentlemanly and elegant Aaron was no longer gentle. He shouted at me, his eyes filled with disgust. At that time, I wanted to explain, but I couldn't explain anything at all. In the end, I could only keep bowing and apologizing, saying I was wrong, saying I shouldn't have fallen for him. But Aaron didn't get angry. The next day, he quit the job I had originally secured for me, using the excuse of going abroad for further studies, and sent me to a remote university in another country. To prevent me from contacting the outside world, Aaron even hired bodyguards to watch over me. At first, I didn't understand why Aaron treated me this way. It wasn't until the first month I was abroad that the news of Aaron's marriage trended online. I only then realized that all these years, he had always had a first love in his heart. I watched the video of Aaron's wedding several times. In the video, when he looks at Jillian, Aaron's gaze is gentle and affectionate. He has never looked at me with that kind of gaze. From that moment on, I knew that Aaron had kept me by his side all these years out of nothing but sympathy and obligation. His only love was Jillian. "Miss Nancy, get in the car." The assistant's voice brought me back to my senses. I nodded and got into the car, holding the sleeping Farah. When the assistant saw Farah, a hint of surprise crossed her face. "Miss Nancy, this is..." I made a shushing gesture, afraid that chatting with my assistant would disturb Farah's sleep. When I sat in the back seat, I softly answered the question, "This is my daughter." The assistant nodded and fell silent. When he drove the car to the destination, I was taken aback. This hotel is the one where Aaron married Jillian. After 5 years of marriage, he holds a wedding anniversary celebration every year and personally selects gifts for Jillian. I think Aaron truly cherishes Jillian. A few years ago, he didn't allow me to step into their world. This year, when he brought me back to the country, it was only to let me witness their happiness. I got out of the car feeling somewhat numb, and saw Jillian standing by the street, smiling as she walked towards me. Unlike my weathered face and simple clothing, Jillian wore expensive jewelry and had sprayed perfume, looking well taken care of by Aaron. Jillian's smile suddenly froze on her face. I knew she had seen Farah in my arms. Sure enough, when Jillian came to my side, her expression was one of surprise. "Nancy, how could you secretly have a child abroad without telling me? I've been married to your Uncle Aaron for so long, and you still treat me like a stranger." Before I could say anything, Jillian unceremoniously picked up Farah from my arms. Farah was woken up and immediately started crying, struggling not to be held by Jillian. I took Farah from Jillian's arms and comforted her for a while. Actually, Jillian knows that I had a crush on Aaron. This time I returned to the country, I didn't want to have too much involvement with Jillian. But Jillian still stubbornly wanted to hug Farah. When Jillian and I arrived at the hotel suite, Farah was still crying and asking me to hold her. Jillian forced a smile and handed Farah back to me. "Your Uncle Aaron knows that having a baby isn't easy. We haven't thought about having children these past few years. Seeing that you actually had a daughter, I'm so excited." A few people were already seated in the private room. I'm not used to dealing with others, so I chose a spot in the corner, and Jillian naturally sat down beside me. She warmly linked her arm with mine, introducing me and Farah to others. The gazes of those around me were filled with visible mockery and curiosity. Unable to endure the strange atmosphere here, I suggested that I wanted to go to the restroom. When I returned after washing my face, I heard Jillian's voice. Someone asked Jillian why she brought in this unlucky thing. "What a cursed thing, Nancy is the daughter of Aaron's friend, so it is only right to take care of her. Although she took some wrong turns in the past, now that she has a child, she definitely won't make the same mistakes again." Hearing Jillian say this, I just stood quietly at the door of the private room. Yes. In the eyes of others, I am just a crazy woman who seduces other people's husbands, a shameless wretch. Farah anxiously tugged at my clothes, and I reassured her a bit before stepping into the private room. Some things are always meant to be faced. I don't know how long it has been, but suddenly everyone in the private room stood up. "Mr. Aaron is here." "Hello, Mr. Aaron." A group of people crowded around, but I didn't move, I just sat in my seat. After a long while, I finally lifted my head and looked at Aaron. He seemed to have lost some weight. Aaron was dressed in a suit, and Jillian leaned against him. When their eyes met, both of them were filled with smiles. Aaron was surrounded by people and did not notice me in the corner. All these years, he has still been adored like the moon by the stars, while I am the only one living poorly. Suddenly, Jillian seemed to remember something, and with a smile, she nudged Aaron. "Aaron, Nancy is here too. You two haven't seen each other in so many years, you should catch up." Nancy even brought back a surprise. Upon hearing the words surprise, Aaron remained unmoved. Instead, he first helped Jillian sit down, then ordered her a cup of red date and white fungus soup, before lifting his gaze and shifting his attention to me. Farah curled up in terror, looking very guarded. Aaron clearly saw Farah as well, his eyes widening in shock. "Nancy, what is this?" He was asking about Farah. I hadn't mentioned Farah to them, so when they saw me with Farah, their expressions were identical, either surprised or watching a good show. Jillian spoke for me. "Aaron, this is Nancy's daughter. How lovely she is. She looks just like Nancy, and she seems to be several years older now." Aaron's gaze fell on Farah, then on me, scrutinizing me for a while. Just when I thought Aaron would no longer pay attention to me, he hoarsely pointed at Farah. "In these years abroad, you are already married and have children?" I lifted my head and looked directly at Aaron, giving a slight nod. "I got married early. Sorry, I didn't tell you." It was very quiet around, with no one speaking. Aaron stared at me, as if assessing whether my words were true or false. Jillian seemed to want to say something else, but Aaron had already come to stand in front of me. "Where is your husband?" I pressed my lips together and said, "He's been busy lately, so he hasn't come." Whispers accompanied by snickers filled the room, but the guests seemed to hold back their laughter out of respect for Aaron, not laughing too heartily. Aaron's face turned ashen, and in the end, he said nothing, simply sitting down next to Jillian. This meal was tasteless to me. Everyone else was praising the match between Aaron and Jillian, while I just wanted to take Farah to rest as soon as possible. The rent here isn't too expensive, I can still afford it. I don't want to go abroad anymore. The meal ended quickly. I wanted to leave, but Aaron called out to me, saying he had something to tell me. In the end, Aaron and I stayed in the private room. Jillian was there too. Aaron looked at me with a cold gaze, his words as devoid of warmth as his expression. "Nancy, since we both have our backgrounds, I hope you won't disturb me anymore." Jillian suppressed a smile at the corner of her lips. "Aaron, don't say that about Nancy. Nancy has grown up now, and knows what things she shouldn't do." The couple sang in harmony, looking exceptionally in sync. As for me, I was excluded from this understanding. The promises I make, they never believe. But I still nodded and bowed. "I won't do it again." They both remained silent as I turned to leave, holding Farah in my arms. Aaron called an assistant to take me, but this time I refused. After returning to the rental house with Farah, she suddenly asked me in a low voice if today's uncle and aunt disliked her. They say children are observant and know everything. I shook my head. They don't dislike Farah. They just hate me, that's all. Farah seemed to have many questions she wanted to ask me, but in the end, she didn't ask any. She just held me and said, "Mom, you've worked hard." The tears that had been held back all day seemed ready to fall at this moment. But I couldn't cry in front of Farah. So, I lifted my head and held back the tears. After lulling Farah to sleep, I suddenly received a text message. The sender was Jillian. "Nancy, if you have time, let's talk." I frowned, and just before going to bed, I received a call from Jillian. "I'm downstairs at your place. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you still have thoughts of going abroad recently? Both Aaron and I actually hope you continue to stay overseas. And your husband is also abroad, right? It's better to go abroad." I felt a bit bewildered, but as I came to my senses, I found it somewhat amusing. The only thing that could make Jillian contact me in the middle of the night is probably this. They both hate me to this extent. Even being in the same country, they can't stand it. I glanced at Farah, who was sleeping beside me. After going downstairs, I indeed saw Jillian standing under the street light. When I stood in front of her, I took a deep breath and finally looked into her eyes. I don't plan to go abroad anymore. For Farah's sake, I won't burden her with the fatigue of travel anymore. Jillian let out a light laugh. With no one else around, her gaze finally held an unreserved disdain. Nancy, I know you are short on money right now. If I could give you some money, would you be willing to go abroad? I fell silent for a moment. The fact that I was short on money was already common knowledge. Jillian and Aaron knew that I was having a hard time abroad, so when they threatened me, they were also very aware of my weaknesses. But I refused. This surprised Jillian a bit. That night, Jillian and I parted on bad terms. In the following days, I was busy looking for a job, but I kept getting eliminated in the first round of interviews. It was a relatively young interviewer who hesitantly told me that this was Ms. Jillian's instruction. Only then did I realize that Jillian didn't even want me to look for a job. After being stunned for a long time, I thanked the interviewer who had told me the truth. As soon as I stepped out of the interview company, I received a text message from the hospital. Last night, I made an appointment at the hospital, wanting to get some antidepressants. During the consultation, the doctor told me that my recent condition is not good and suggested that I consider having a few more psychological counseling sessions. Long ago, when I was abroad, a doctor gave me this kind of advice. It seems that my depression has indeed become quite serious. As I came out of the consultation room with the medicine, I was looking down at the instructions and accidentally bumped into someone as I passed the corner. I'm sorry. I preemptively apologized, and when I looked up, I found that the person standing in front of me was Aaron. Behind him stood Jillian. Aaron frowned slightly, seemingly unwilling to talk to me, and was about to leave directly. At that moment, Aaron suddenly noticed the medicine in my hand. Nancy, what are you doing at the hospital? He seemed to want to see what I was holding in my hand, but I quickly shoved the medicine box into my bag. I had just caught a cold recently and came to buy some medicine. Jillian timely interjected, there have indeed been quite a few people coming down with the flu lately. Aaron remained silent, still staring at my bag. I lowered my head and hurried down the stairs. Meeting Aaron was not something I had anticipated. I had always wanted to see Aaron, but he was always busy. Before going abroad, the number of times I met him could be counted on one hand. Most of the time, he would only occasionally send me a couple of messages. After going abroad, Aaron simply never contacted me. I didn't expect that after returning to the country, I really didn't want to run into Aaron, yet I kept encountering him. I have been suffering from depression for a long time. During the hardest times, I experienced severe somatic reactions and even thought about jumping off a building, yet I still gritted my teeth and survived. When I got home, Farah was waiting for me in the living room. Last night, Farah didn't sleep well. I decided to let her rest early tonight. But just when I had finally managed to feel a bit drowsy, I caught a whiff of something burnt. Farah was sleeping soundly, completely unaware that something was wrong. At first, I thought the neighbor next door had burnt their food, but as the smell of char grew stronger, I finally realized something was wrong. Suddenly turning over and getting out of bed, I stood by the window and saw thick smoke rising into the air. I realized that the building was on fire. Countless memories surged up, and I couldn't care about so much anymore. I suddenly picked up Farah from the bed. Farah rubbed her eyes in confusion and asked, "Mom, what's wrong?" When I realized that the surroundings were on fire, Farah clutched my sleeve. "Mom?" Perhaps out of fear, my hand holding Farah was trembling. After stumbling and pushing open the front door, I rushed down the escape passage with Farah. Along the way, I fell 3 or 4 times, my knees bruised and swollen, but after getting up, I completely forgot about the pain. As I burst out of the building, I saw a large crowd standing outside. The fire alarm has sounded. The scene before me overlaps with memories of the past. I held Farah, leaning weakly against the tree across the building, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over me. Farah anxiously asked me, "Mom, are we going to die?" I came to my senses and held her a little tighter. "It won't happen. As long as Farah is by my side, I will never let anything happen to her. Because Farah's biological mother has already died saving me." In my second year abroad, Aaron's control over me finally loosened a bit. I met a Chinese mentor named Cynthia. She is a psychological counselor at the university, and during my darkest moments, I sought her out. After expressing my feelings for my uncle, I thought Cynthia would also find me disgusting. After all, that's how others have judged me. But she didn't. She encouraged me to move on from the past and even took me along to conduct experiments. She showed me quite a few photos of Farah. At that time, Farah had just been born not long ago, and Cynthia had just gotten divorced, but there was no doubt that she loved Farah. These days are the closest I've been to recovering from depression. Until one night, the laboratory building caught fire. I was wearing earplugs and didn't hear the alarm. The mentor rushed up, wanting to calm me down. At that moment, due to the high temperature, the lights on the ceiling of the laboratory fell down. She stood in front of me. The light fixture fell squarely on her head. Before the fire alarm arrived, she probably knew she was beyond saving. She held my hand and begged me to adopt Farah, to raise Farah as my daughter. I agreed. In the end, the mentor died in the fire. And I went to pick up Farah. Farah is too young, and her impression of her mother has become very vague. Since then, she has been calling me Mom. And my depression has become increasingly severe. As soon as I close my eyes, I can picture that scene in the laboratory building. It has become a burden on my heart. The only person who was good to me abroad has passed away. In the years that followed, I lived like a walking corpse. Finally coming to my senses, I realized that my back was already soaked with sweat. At that moment, a car stopped in front of me. When the door opened, I saw Aaron's face. He didn't close the car door, but came directly to me and asked if I was hurt. "I heard there was a fire here. Come on, I'll take you to the hospital." Aaron forgot to be discreet and directly grabbed my wrist. I shook him off fiercely. "Mr. Aaron, I'm fine, no need for you to worry." This time, his reaction was particularly intense. "Nancy, what do you really take me for? I found out about your medical records abroad. You went to the hospital at least 3 times last December, all for psychiatric issues. You have depression, don't you? Why didn't you tell me?" Faced with Aaron's scathing accusations, I could only feel irony. In this world, the one least qualified to criticize me is Aaron. And he continued to speak. "Moreover, you never even registered your marriage. Nancy, what on earth have you learned during these years abroad? How have you fallen so low?" Farah shrank in fear behind me, tears streaming down her face. After taking a deep breath, I raised my hand and slapped Aaron hard. The rest of his words were stuck like a jam tape, unable to come out. Aaron touched his cheek and stared at me in a daze. "Aaron, what do you want me to say? Should I casually mention that I have depression and feel worse than dead? Should I tell you that I almost encountered a shooting while abroad? Should I say that I live in constant fear every day? To be fair, would you even care? And have you forgotten something? You simply won't let me contact you." Aaron fell silent. A few seconds later, he took a step toward me. I shook my head and stepped back weakly. "Let's leave it at that, Aaron. My life has already turned out this way, hasn't it? Next, my only wish is to have no further contact with Aaron. 5 years is enough time for me to see a person clearly." I picked up Farah and stepped out of Aaron's line of sight. Due to the fire investigation into the cause of the blaze, we were placed in a nearby hotel. Farah was very well behaved, not making a fuss even in the new environment. The results of the investigation, however, are shocking. The fire was caused by arson. The mastermind behind hiring someone to set the fire was Jillian. Perhaps, from the moment I refused to go abroad, Jillian had already thought of wanting me dead. Jillian was taken to the police station. I hate her, but the fact that Farah and I are still alive is the best thing. I thought Aaron would continue to stand by Jillian, but the next day, he announced the news of their divorce. Along with the divorce, he also revealed the secret of Aaron and Jillian. It turned out that Aaron married Jillian, partly for a strategic alliance and partly to market their image as devoted husband and wife, in order to help boost their stock prices. Facing the numerous media, Aaron bowed, "I apologize for the concealment over the years. But I know clearly, my true love has never been Jillian." Looking at this report, I can only feel a sense of irony. A few days ago, they held a wedding anniversary ceremony, and today, Aaron and Jillian are divorced. And Jillian at the police station also admitted that she wanted to murder me, but it was just an attempt. Jillian refused to apologize and showed no remorse. I met Jillian once. She looked a bit worn, and the gaze she directed at me was still filled with resentment. "Nancy, I only hate that I didn't have someone kill you outright, stab you to death. So what if I forced Aaron to marry me? We've been husband and wife for 5 years. It's all your fault. If you hadn't gone back to your country, I wouldn't have killed you at all." Looking at the frenzied and hysterical Jillian, I could only feel a sense of sorrow. Before leaving, I finally spoke my first words in the police station. "Jillian, have you schemed and calculated to get what you wanted?" Jillian fell silent. Behind her, the sound of sobbing arose. I left the police station. Fate really played a trick on me. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely not like Aaron. The fire incident caused a huge uproar, and many people began to dig deeper into Aaron and Jillian. It was then discovered that Jillian had indeed reached out to Aaron many times, and the two had signed a superficial marriage agreement before their wedding. Aaron himself emphasized that their relationship was merely contractual. But I know that eyes cannot lie. When Aaron looked at Jillian, there was indeed emotion in his eyes. If it weren't for Jillian making such a mistake, Aaron would probably still be on her side. For Farah's safety, I decided to move her a little farther away. Moreover, Farah has reached the age to attend kindergarten, so I took her to complete the enrollment procedures. On the first day of kindergarten, Farah was very happy. When school was over, I waited early at the kindergarten gate. When we left the garden, Farah happily jumped into my arms and said, "Mom, a lot of kids were crying today, but I didn't cry." I gently rubbed Farah's head with a sense of comfort. Our Farah is truly a good child. Farah was still talking, but suddenly she stopped. She lifted her head and timidly looked to the other side. I realized something was wrong, and following Farah's gaze, I looked over and saw Aaron. Aaron's eyes were a deep shade of dark blue, as if he had been staying up for a long time. He pressed his lips together, watching me and Farah. Farah still remembers the last time Aaron yelled at me. I was completely deflated. In the end, it was Aaron who walked over to me. "Nancy, I know everything." Hearing him say this, alarm bells went off in my heart. I want to leave, but Aaron stubbornly blocks my way. "This child is your mentor's, right? I can help you raise her. I've kept your room all this time. Nancy, as long as you turn back, the two of us will always have a chance." I silently held Farah. Aaron speaks so beautifully. As long as I turn back, the two of us will always have a chance. Now, why doesn't he say that we have no possibility anymore? I think Aaron might not like me. He just doesn't want to lose me, no matter what role I play. I shook my head. "Aaron, there's no need to say these things, it's all in the past. The good and the bad, it's all behind us now. The past is not worth longing for, and I will not long for it either. Facing Aaron's bewildered gaze, I slowly spoke, "You were right before. My feelings for you are more about dependence than affection. Thank you for making me realize this. I no longer need Aaron at all." This was the last time I saw Aaron. He seemed to look at me for a long time, but I just walked on. After returning home, Farah secretly told me that she glanced back and saw Aaron crying. He was crying very sadly. Farah looked a bit uneasy, perhaps because she had never seen an adult cry before. I nodded. "So, what does Farah want to eat tonight?" Children are easy to please. As soon as I mentioned food, Farah forgot about what had just happened and eagerly started discussing what to make for dinner with me. As I entered the kitchen, my phone rang. I opened it and found that I had received a job offer. I passed an interview a few days ago and can officially start my job now. Finally, the day has come. After experiencing so many ups and downs, I finally realized that a peaceful and safe life is the happiest of all. After that, I didn't hear much about Aaron and Jillian. I only know that Jillian was sentenced to death, and the Ching family no longer recognizes her as their daughter. Meanwhile, Aaron, busy with work, was hospitalized due to a gastric hemorrhage. While he was hospitalized, Aaron contacted me. He took the initiative to mention that he hoped I could help him with a will notarization, as he wanted to leave all his inheritance to me in case of any unforeseen circumstances. I refused. To be precise, I don't need his inheritance either. One night, Aaron called me. "Nancy, I regret not accepting your confession at that time and instead choosing Jillian for business interests." His voice was a bit hoarse. I smiled gently and reminded Aaron, "But I never confessed to you, nor do I plan to." He did see my diary, but my plan did not include confessing to him. I just wanted to secretly like him for a while, and that was enough. But I paid the price for my youthful infatuation. Aaron stopped talking. Before he hung up, I ended the call first and then added him to my blacklist. I think I have bid farewell to Aaron for good. The feelings between us have been washed away by time, and in fact, there is not much left. The next time we meet, it may be at Aaron's funeral. But my future is still bright. From Aaron's perspective, some people only understand after they have lost. When I learned that Nancy had a crush on me, my first reaction was panic. I ignored the secret joy in my heart and instinctively scolded her. At this moment, Jillian took the initiative to bring up the matter of a marriage alliance with me. She has been kind to my family. After a night of contemplation, I made my decision. According to Jillian's intention, I sent Nancy abroad, leaving a void of 5 years in her life. When I made this decision, I never imagined how the wheels of fate would turn. I made a pact with Jillian that we would only be married for 6 years. But Jillian wants to renew our contract. After Nancy returned, Jillian couldn't sit still. She wanted to kill Nancy. I dare not think about what would happen if Jillian succeeded. That day, I understood one thing. I had lost Nancy forever. I divorced Jillian. But for now, I have no idea what the origins of Nancy's child are. But I know that I like Nancy. If she gives me a chance to be her third party, I would accept it. After the investigation, I discovered that she was the daughter of her late mentor. Upon learning this, my first reaction was one of wild joy. Nancy is not in a relationship, nor is she married, and she is raising a child alone. Does this mean I still have a chance? I found Nancy. However, everything was different from what I had imagined. She rejected me. After I was hospitalized for a stomach bleed from drinking, I saw Nancy, but she didn't see me. After she left, several nurses talked about her. I just found out that Nancy's kidneys have some issues, and she might need to wait for surgery on the organs. In this moment, I made a somewhat crazy decision. Anyway, over the years, I have been busy with work, and death is likely to come soon. But before I die, I want to leave something for Nancy. She doesn't want my inheritance, so I'll give her something else. Nancy can hate me, can choose not to attend my funeral, but I hope she remembers me. Please. This is my last wish. After signing the voluntary donation agreement, I breathed a sigh of relief. Nancy. I hope you can remember me in another way. Even if one day, I will die. But at least, I really left you something useful. Of course, I didn't tell her about this. What a pity. There will be no other possibilities between Nancy and me.